Yeah, namaste. Namaste, everybody. I hope you're doing well today. Super excited about this talk today. It's about just finding positivity in our lives and why are we negative or why are we positive? Yeah, so one of the things I want you to think about right now, and we're going to journal through this. So grab a pen and a paper because at some point we're going to ask questions at the beginning and more towards the end, but I want you to contemplate things and journal them. Journal your journey, right? So take part in a positive experience. So right now, think about the most positive experience you had last week. What brought you joy the most last week? What was it that you really found that filled you up, mentally, physically, and spiritually, right? Unfortunately, what happens is we think certain things make us happy, but they usually don't, okay? So, for example, um, if you really think about purchasing this certain item, right? And we'll talk about this more in the next slide or so, but certain things that we think we buy make us happy or they don't. Or if you're in school and good grades, or if I just get this degree, it's going to make me happier. If I just get this promotion, it's going to make me happier. If I just get in this relationship, I'm going to be happy. If I get out of this relationship, if I buy this car, all those different things in our life. If I'm able to get on this hike, if I can just get off work earlier, if I can just get a raise, all those things, right? That make us happy. But what we realize long term, if you look back, think about that. If you look back on all those things in your life that you thought were really going to make you happy, how many of them really brought you joy right now for this second? That raise, that job, that promotion, the car, the trip, the holiday. What things, if you look back, really, really, really brought you joy? Unfortunately, what happens is, the synapses follow the same pattern for effectiveness. It's for survival, right? So that's what we do to survive is we've trained our brain a certain way, a certain mechanism to live, to thrive, to be okay, right? So we keep thinking those things are going to bring us happy, bring us joy, right? So we keep looking for happiness in those things, but then they never bring us joy or happiness. So it's this learning process. It's this curve of really realizing what do we need to spend our time, energy, and effort on that brings us joy, right? So that void is never filled. And then we just become disappointed and we begin to lose hope because the things we thought were going to bring us happiness never do. All right? Because we mispredict. We mispredict our happiness, right? So I want you to take a second here and I want you to just journal right now. I want you to write down what today do you think is going to bring you joy? What are those things in your life? What are you thinking that's going to bring you joy, right? A lot of people were like, if you're into politics, thinking that Biden is going to bring you a lot of joy, and you may have had a lot of joy at the beginning, right? But maybe that joy has fallen off, right? Or the new year. Or maybe you thought with COVID, getting the vaccination was just going to bring you all this joy, right? But have you gotten a lot more joy after the vaccination, right? Maybe there's other aspects that have brought you joy, right? So write the title down, what really brings you joy, and then after this, I want you to really think about this for the next few days, even the next week, of the things that you really think are going to bring you joy, right? And then look back, once again, and I want you to journal and ask yourself, what things in the past have really brought you joy? What things do you look back on that have really brought you joy, long term? Right? That you still look back at that memory, at that time, and that journey, you're like, oh my gosh, I was so happy at that point. Then ask yourself why. Why were you happy at that point? What brought you joy? All right? So think about all those circumstances. I want you to spend some time writing them down, and then, of course, I'd love to get your feedback and your opinion of the things that brought you joy. All right? So finding contentment equals finding joy. If I look at all the people that I know and have known over my life, the ones that are the happiest are the ones that are most content. They're content with where they're at, right here, right now. That they're not really, I'm not going to say striving for more, but they're content with where they're at. And they keep working and they keep doing their hobbies and their interests, and they volunteer, they give back to the community. But they have never been one of those people that are superficial or that are always trying to keep up with the Joneses. So I want you to think about materialism. If you're really thinking purchasing the new home or the new purse or the new car or buying all these clothes and all these different things that you're buying and working towards is going to bring you joy, it's not. I can tell you that, when I made the most money in my life, when I was paying like $30,000 a year in taxes, I was probably the most miserable, right? Because all I was doing was working and focusing on work, right? So from my personal experience, I had a lot of great memories. I've done a lot of trips. I've purchased a lot of things, but the trips are still part of the memory. I really enjoyed looking back and thinking of all the amazing places I visited. But anything I bought materialistically, really hasn't brought me a lot of joy. All the clothes that I'd spent, money on. Materialism is the inability to be happy with your current situation and lack of gratitude. Whether minimalism is the ability to be content with your current situation while desiring less worldly possessions. So think about how you can be just content, how you can be minimalistic with all those desires, right? What is it that really, really is going to bring you joy? So one of the most expensive purchases besides, property has been this van outside. And I paid cash for the van, I've paid cash for all the upgrades and the modifications and everything like that. But that was very expensive. And I would have to say that because of what we've transformed that van into, that it brings us so much joy. That when we go to travel, like we went out to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and it's so convenient, it's so easy, and it has everything we need in there. So we love to travel. And because of that, this van has brought us a lot of joy. So I'm not going to say that not all materialistic things can provide joy to your life, but you really have to be intentful. I had focused over 5 years on RVs and van life and what that really meant. I had done a lot of due diligence. I mean, I have spreadsheets over generators and their efficiency and how much diesel fuel they use and all these things, right? I analyzed everything to the nth degree. And I knew what I really wanted and needed, right? And living in the van, we really determined that. And the van is super minimalistic, right? There's only an outdoor shower. There's no indoor heat. I mean, there's not even a sink. So it's truly minimalistic, and because of that, it provides what we need. The more materialistic items you desire, the unhappier you become long term. Because once again, those are not bringing you true joy or true happiness. The less materialistic items you desire, the happier you become, short and long term, right? Because your focus is on experiences. Your focus is on enjoying life right here, right now. Your life isn't going to be happy because of once you acquire this materialistic item, that's going to bring you joy and that's going to fill you up. Your focus completely begins to change. So think about the ways that you can find contentment. Think about the things of what you really begin to focus on, all right? So our happiness levels adjust. And I'm just going to read through this real quick. It'll be on the slide. But after 2 years of marriage, after receiving positive and negative news, right? After purchasing a new car, after starting a new job, after death, and after a breakup. So think about, if you've been married, right? Maybe more than once, right? But after you get married, what happens about 18 months to 2 years? The joy, the happiness, it becomes mundane, it's boring, it's not the same excitement that it was as you were looking up to marriage. If you've been married more than once, then you've lived through this a few times, and you probably are going to agree that you are not as happy as you are today as you were with maybe that very first marriage, right? As that wedding day, of all the excitement and all the joy that it brought to you. And then after receiving positive or negative news, so I would say probably the most relevant thing today at this point in February is, the announcement back in November of Joe Biden being president. A lot of people were really happy. A lot of people were really sad. Positive or negative news. So we're into this presidency. This is February the 15th. So how do you feel now compared to when you felt back then? Like all the excitement or all the fear or all the angriness. I mean, maybe you're still to some of that level, but it's probably not the same, right? And then 2 years into it, it's not going to be the same. And I don't know how many years you've been voting, but if you look before, Trump, and if you look back at Obama or Bush, right? or Clinton, or any of those people, of the joy and the pain and the things that you've suffered and struggled through, it begins to level off. And that's how it is with everything in our life. So your happiness is going to go up really, really high under certain circumstances, but then eventually it's going to level off. So just like when you purchase a car, you're super excited, you drive that thing off the lot, and then all of a sudden when it needs new tires and new brakes or a new water pump, right? Or a new battery, right? Maintenance start to come up and you have to take it back to the dealer, and it's never really as convenient as you want it to be. That newness wears off, right? Starting a new job, you always get super excited at the beginning, then all of a sudden the workload is a lot more than what you wanted, right? The people that you work with maybe are not as exciting and as empowering and uplifting as you thought, right? The newness wears off, right? After death. We're super sad a lot of times, super depressed, super anxious, but after a while that all levels off, and then you're not as sad as you were before, right? And same thing as a breakup. So a lot of times our perceptions of what we think it is are not really reality. So body image. Body image is a big one that brings a lot of negativity into our life. So I'll say this a million times, as long as I live, we're not defined by our weight. Our weight does not define who we are, all right? They've done studies, right? And all this is data out there that I've researched and I found. That's why I'm super excited about it. But those people that have actually, got on these diets and these weight loss programs and all these things, they're actually more depressed long term than they were at the beginning. They're not as happy. They're more depressed. So a lot of things think about this, a lot of things that we think bring us happy, of losing weight, oh, I'm going to be so happy, I'll be so excited, actually didn't bring us happiness and didn't bring us joy. Cosmetic surgeries is another one. They usually make us feel worse about our image than before we got them, right? And the reason why is because we're never really going to find that state of perfection. Through that journey and that path of losing weight, of getting cosmetic surgery, we're looking for that perfect body, that perfect image. A lot of that has to go with what we're looking on social media, or what we're looking in magazines, or what we're looking on TV, of all those images that we see, and we think that we can be that person. And a lot of it has to do with advertising and marketing. But realize you're never going to receive that level of perfection through that journey in the path. You really just have to love who you are today within yourself and be content with who you are today. Okay? So there's some happiness factors. What really enriches our life? All right? So some things make it better, some things make it worse. So let's start off with lack of sleep. Lack of sleep creates more anxiety, more stress on your whole entire body, mentally, physically, and spiritually. That really affects your happiness. That's a true factor. So the more rested sleep you can get, the better off you'll be. Exercise. Exercise really does bring you joy, right? So your form of exercise, whether it's a walk or a hike or a jog or a run or a swim, kayaking, canoeing, whatever, I'm going to encourage you to try to spend time in nature when you do your exercise. Your gyms are cool, but if you can spend time doing things in nature, it helps you feel soothed and calm and relaxed, right? The fresh air and everything like that. Exercise really does bring you joy. Find the form of exercise that serves you, right? What you consume. I don't like the word diet, but I put it in here just so because it's common knowledge. But what you consume, your diet plays a vital role in your health, your well-being, as well as your cognitive skills. Your cognitive skills also play a vital role on how you behave, how you think, how you feel, how you react. What's your method, right, of resolution, right? So serotonin is what makes us happy, and it's primarily created in the gut and the stomach, okay? 95% of the serotonin is created in the gut. So what you consume, the foods that you eat, have a vital role in what makes you happy and healthy. So I'm going to suggest and encourage you to find a dietitian, to sit down with them and say, look, this is what I'm eating. How can I make my life better? And what can I do? And I'm going to tell you that, buying a lot of processed food, buying a lot of fast food, things like that, are not going to make you happy. They really do affect your well-being. And that's one thing that so many people tend to neglect, but you have so much control over your happiness and your joy, right? So if you think about if I can be happier by eating healthier foods and feel better about myself, then why wouldn't I do it? So if you feel like you're kind of lost and you need some assistance, get a dietitian. And if you need help in that avenue, I've got some people that can definitely help you with that. They are amazing and they will really, really help you out and get you on the journey and the path that you need to be. So, the happiness factors, this is by Sonia Lumbrowski. All right, so she says from her studies and her research that genetically 50% of it's happy, right? So you either have a positive or negative outlook. The glass is half full, the glass is half empty. So blame your mom and dad and grandma and grandpa. If you always are like happy and joy and positive, then that's awesome. If you're negative and you struggle, that's not so awesome. Once again, it's genetics. But the good thing is we have the ability to change, right? So half of it, or 40%, is our intentions, our beliefs, our behaviors. So 40% of your happiness comes from your purposeful life, of the intentions that you set each and every day, for the belief system that you've established in yourself, our community, our society, right? And the behaviors. How do you react to those intentions that you set? So it's very important to be as intentful as possible, all right? And then the last is life circumstances. So you win the lottery. That's a great example. It just popped into my head, but think about those people that win the lottery, how excited they are. And then have you ever seen all those shows on like how broke they are afterwards? So many people are bankrupt and worse off after the lottery. But a few people, like I watched a show, this one guy, he won the lottery and I think he was spending like $200,000 on his house, which you think is, wow, that's crazy. But that way he has paid cash for his house, he has money to do whatever he wants. So death, life, marriage, all those life circumstances, positive or negative, play a 10% role. So think about your behaviors, think about your beliefs, think about what you can do to change, right? All these concepts are going to make your life so much better. All right. So we're still on these factors. So decrease your stress level, right? So how can we decrease stress? Because the more stress we have, the more anxious we are, the more frustrated, the less time we find joy. Stress really, really plays a negative factor. So if it's your finances, maybe get them in queue, figure out a budget, speak with a financial counselor. Look at Dave Ramsey, he's online, somebody to help you out with that aspect. Your marriage or your relationships, I'm going to encourage you to find a counselor, a therapist, somebody to help you kind of understand from a different perspective, right? So this has been super awesome, looking through like Psychology Today and a lot of different articles, but the neurological explanation is the amygdala, right? The neurological explanation is the amygdala. So from all the research that I've been doing over the last 5 years with yoga, mindfulness, and meditation, you can actually decrease the size of the amygdala by mindfulness, being present, meditation, breath work, okay? If you spend 15 to 20 minutes, ideally 20 minutes every morning, just being mindful, being present, being focused, setting your intention, it really lowers the stress level. So that threshold now that was up here comes here, because a lot of times we're in this fight mode, or we're in the flight mode, or the freeze mode, right? And it's because our amygdala gets enlarged. So they've done a lot of studies with people, veterans with PTSD, and their amygdala is like really, 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 really enlarged. But what they've noticed is through mindfulness, through meditation, through yoga, through those types of, breath works and opportunities, the amygdala has actually shrunk with these veterans. And so they are now at a lower threshold. They're not on this high alert, right? This high anxiety level. So if you're very stressed, you need to spend more time being mindful and being present. You need to spend more time with yourself, more time journaling, more time in prayer, whatever it is for you. What this does is actually allows self-regulation. What happens is a lot of times when people start doing mindfulness, meditation, and yoga, they really don't want to be self-regulated. They really don't want to be mindful and be present. It's kind of a struggle at the beginning, right? I'll always say that yoga does two things for each and every one of us, right? It lets us know those things in life that we do really well, the things that we're doing amazing and great. And then it also lets us know the things in our life that we need to work on, the things in our life that we don't do well. And that's what happens when you're alone with yourself, right? Because some people really don't want to grow. They don't want to change. They don't want to be that warrior, that hero. They want to be the victim, right? That also affects your stress. That also affects your ability to truly be happy and content with yourself. It takes work. It takes energy. It takes effort. We have to retrain the brain. But I can tell you, you follow all these steps, you're really going to find joy. You're really going to understand what brings you joy. And then you're going to understand an eagle just flew by. Man, I wish I wasn't doing this video. I would run out, take the, well, probably not. It's like 6 degrees outside. But give yourself this opportunity to really be alone and understand and love and be content with yourself. One thing that's really going to help is, and if you focus on emotional intelligence, the more emotionally intelligent you become through this journey and this path, the more you are going to find happiness and joy, the more you're going to understand how to react to yourself and others, how you behave, your belief system. So really dive into some emotional intelligence books and theories and videos and understand those concepts. I think going through that as well is really going to provide a different perspective of happiness. All right, intuitions. So your intuitions can be incorrect of what you really think is going to bring you happy, right? Oh, if I just, once again, it's a different perspective, but you know, if I think these things are going to bring me happiness and then they don't, then I've kind of like have a misbelief. Oh no, I need to work a little bit harder. Or it can also affect your self-esteem that, oh, I was wrong, right? Instead of it being a learning experience and an opportunity to grow, you see yourself as I failed, right? So don't see that. Just realize that within our own mechanism, right? 50% of this, genetics, glass half full or empty, positive or negative, that a lot of times what we believe is really going to bring us happiness and joy through our intuitions, they can truly be incorrect. And also we believe in false positives. We've seen this. News is a great example, right? It's misdirecting us, or it's directing us from what's really occurring in our lives. So COVID tests have been false positive, right? So there's so many of those in our belief system and our behaviors of what we really think these things are going to bring us joy, but they don't, right? So we have to reframe our perspective, right? So you look at this photo that I've attached here of my front yard, and it looks really, really cold, but the thing is, when I put on different layers, I'm not out there in flip-flops and shorts and a t-shirt, but I put on the proper clothing, it's not cold, right? And also because of the altitude, I'm at 7,000 feet, so I'm closer to the sun. So on sunny days, you know, it can be 35 degrees, 40 degrees, and everybody's outside in shorts and t-shirts because of the height, because of the sun, because of the lack of humidity, right? Because it's really dry. So even though it looks really cold, a lot of times it's not as cold as it looks. So reframe your perception. Think about things in a different context and begin to analyze and think about those things that really bring you joy, right? Bring you happiness. And then are you being pessimistic or optimistic about it? What's your belief system about every aspect and concept that's in your life, all right? So, social media, insidious. No, I'm not going to say this right. Social media, insidious. Social media, insidious, right? So, what happens, once again, if you go back to the image of where we're at, our body image, right? Or our self-esteem, right? So, what happens is, I don't post every time I'm sick or I've got a migraine or I'm throwing up or I can't walk or I can't get out of bed. I post like, finally a victory. I got out of bed and I went for a hike today. I feel good. It's taken me till noon to get out of bed. Like, I don't post all that negative stuff, those aspects, right? And so does everybody else. So depending on who you're following in your journey, in your path, they may be completely, totally superficial. Their post may be so out there, right, that it's not even real, right? So social media, we're normally not raw, we're not authentic, we're not genuine, right? We're trying to portray ourselves as a certain person. Just like if you look at the news or so many other things, they have an agenda. They have a different intention of behind it. Watching like certain TV shows, like whatever it may be, the Kardashians or something like that. Like you're comparing yourself to their life. And then what happens is you look down upon yourself. So they're fake, they're superficial, they're dramatic, right? And then what happens is a lot of those people play the victims. And as they begin to play the victims, they have more people that get on board with them, right? And it's a whole victim society, victimhood society, I would say. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't true victims out there, right, that have been abused, that have been bullied. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people that have the ability to be empowered, and they still play the role of a victim for more likes, okay, for more attention, right, to feel sorry for me because I've been in this situation, right, instead of saying, okay, I'm in this situation, how am I going to make it better? I'll give an example. So if I wake up with a migraine and I don't feel good, how am I going to make my life better that day? Instead of me getting on there and like, oh, it's horrible, it's my life, I've got this headache, I got this migraine. No, what can I do to remedy this? What can I do to find gratitude today, no matter what the circumstance? What can I do to make my life better, right? Each and every day we have to ask ourselves, how are we going to enrich our lives and the lives of our community? What happens is you become envious. And that's not just with social media. A lot of times that's keeping up with the Joneses, the people in your life that you feel like you need to compete with, right? Lose that competitive edge on that concept, that you don't have to have a bigger boat or a bigger jet ski or snowmobile or truck or motorhome or lake house or whatever it is, right? Your journey, your path is completely different. Don't compare yourself to other people, all right? Don't allow yourself to become envious. And then the more time you spend on Facebook, the lower your self-esteem, okay? So spend less time trying to analyze and compare yourself to others and less time on social media. Now, looking at all those concepts of the media, right, of what you're watching on TV, social media, news, and all those things, it actually affects you twice as much as stress over finances. So if you are stressed about where you are financially, the time that you spend on social media will make you even more stressed, twice as stressed. All right. Focalism. We focus only on one aspect instead of all aspects, right? So like one thing happens bad today and that just ruined my whole day, right? This just ruined my day. I can't go forward. Everything's ruined, right? Or, oh my God, if I get this promotion, everything in my life is going to get better. You know, I've heard so many people over the journey and the path like, man, if I could just make this certain amount of money, everything's going to be better. I'll be able to pay off my debt, my car, my student loans. I'll be able to take these vacations and holidays. And what happens when they get more money? Well, then they have to pay more taxes. And then they realize that the income isn't really what they thought it would be. And now the job is more stressful because of financially, of course, when you get in these other positions, they're going to expect more out of you. Focalism, right? So don't focus on one aspect. Try to get the whole entire big picture, right? Spending money on others makes you happier than spending money on yourself. And it could be as little as like $5. You could spend $5 and it doesn't make a difference if you spent 20 or 100. Giving your time, your energy, your effort to others makes this contribution and makes you feel really, really good about who you are. So start giving. I started thinking about all the people in my life that I know that have been really positive, that have a lot of joy, that have a lot of peace. And I realized that they really give back to the community. I mean, when I volunteered at the Nelson and I volunteered at the War Memorial in Kansas City, I worked with so many, I volunteered with so many other people that were so happy because they're giving and they're making a contribution. So make that an opportunity for you this year. Sit down and say, how can I give back to the community, right? And it doesn't have to be money, it can be your time. Right? If you don't have the financial, we all have, a few minutes that we can spend contributing at some factor and volunteering at some point to our community. So find that opportunity this year and dedicate that time to say, I'm going to volunteer. All right? Immune neglect. We tend to cope with negative events better than expected. So a lot of times, like we said, oh, this is going to make my day. This is going to ruin my day. But you have the ability, right? Your body naturally wants to live. It wants to thrive. It wants to survive. So a lot of times when we think, oh my gosh, if this person dies, it's the end of the world. Or if I break up with this person or whatever it is, I lose my house, I lose my car, I have to file bankruptcy. All those things that we think are going to ruin our life, actually, they're not as bad as we think they are, right? We tend to look at the worst scenario all the time on so many aspects, but realistically, it's not as bad as it turns out to be. It's not as impactful in a negative manner as we thought, because we are resilient, right? We are strong. That is part of our mechanism. All right. Goals, visions, and dreams. I talk about this a lot because I'm not goal oriented. So right now, I want you to just think about, are you goal oriented or are you process oriented? And I'll kind of explain that, the difference. All right. So a lot of us think that goals, right, are going to make us happy, but they don't. And I realize this more as I look back at my life, and I would write down all my goals on the fridge. I'd put them up there and have, like, 15, 20 goals that I wanted to do for the year, and I'd get 2 of them done. And then I'd look down on myself. And then I would be like, oh, I'm worthless, I'm not capable, da da da. It lowered my self-esteem. And once I realized I quit putting the goals on there, I felt a lot better. Well, the thing is, now I started doing visions, right? So here's my vision board, if you can see that. So my vision board is more of beliefs and behaviors, dreams, right? And then let's talk about process oriented. So process is that I'm enjoying the journey. I'm enjoying the process of getting there. So if today I just want to go on a hike and I want to do 1 mile hike, right? If I can make it, that's cool. But what happens is I'm going to enjoy the journey to get into that hike, to that destination, right? That point of the trailhead. And then depending on how I feel and what's going on, right? How long I decide to hike. And if I can only do 15 minutes, you know what? I enjoyed that process. I enjoyed being out in nature. I enjoyed seeing things. I enjoyed my time being able to just let everything go and be in a place where I feel accepted and loved. I enjoyed the process. Now, if I put down a goal that I needed to hike, an hour every day, and I didn't accomplish that, then what happens? Right? My perspective of I'm a failure. I can't meet my goals. I'm not good enough, right? So I'm going to encourage you to start thinking about the process. It's okay to put and reframe it, that it's no longer this goal, but this is a dream or this is a vision that I have, and this is what I'm capable of doing, all right? Once again, most of the things that we think will make us happy haven't and never will make us happy. I want you to spend some time journaling and thinking about this as soon as this is over. I want you to write down the things in your life that you thought were going to make you happy, but never have made you happy. I want you to write down the things that you're still working for to make you happy, that you know are really not going to make you happy. The things that repetitively, that you keep working for, but have never really made you happy. You have to keep buying those things over and over and over again, right? You have to keep working for those things, those relationships, whatever it may be in your life. So think about that. Are you working towards the things that really make you happy, that really bring you joy? Or are you working towards those things that have truly never brought you joy, ever, in your life? Your time, your energy, your effort. All right. Journal your journey. So this is definitely time to pull out the pen, all right? And if you have to pause the video, pause, but at least write these questions down and contemplate them, frequently. So how do you cope with negative and positive events? What's your beliefs? What's your behaviors? Do you become really anxious, really violent? How do you cope with the positive things? Are you overelated? Are you just super calm and relaxed? How do you cope with positive and negative events? The unforeseen, especially if you got a flat tire today, or if you got the surprise, unexpected gift. Do you become bitter, angry, and emotional? Do you blame others? Do you play the victim, right? Are you accountable for yourself and you become the hero, right? So allow yourself to be accountable for your beliefs, your breath, your behavior, your intentions, to not blame others for the situation that you're in today, all right? And really think about the things in your life that have brought you joy. What really, really, really has brought you joy in your life, right? And get to the why, right? The why. Why did that bring me joy? Or why did that create stress? Or why am I anxious? Or why do I feel loved? Or why do I feel accepted? Get to the why. And then you're going to be able to really change your perspective on all of these aspects in your life of what really can bring you happiness. So think about these concepts. Please revisit this. And if you have any other questions and you want to dive a little bit deeper, I really enjoyed this topic. I really enjoyed this perspective of really knowing that, half of our happiness, positive or negative, half of our joy or fear, is genetics, right? But we have the ability to truly, truly transform that with mindfulness, with meditation, with being present. But you have to commit, right? I can promise you, if you spend 15 to 20 minutes every morning, mindfulness and meditation, that threshold, that amygdala is going to shrink, 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 and eventually you're going to be down here. And to get that trigger to go up here, where before, if you're here, your trigger is going to be a lot higher. So let me know your thoughts. I love you guys. I hope you have an amazing week, and I hope you find joy, and I hope you find happiness. I hope this was helpful to you. Talk to you later.